This episode of the Leap Forward podcast is brought to you by Bridge LT, leaders in conversational learning and innovation. Through AI role plays, technical simulators, and comprehensive training programs, Bridge LT is revolutionizing the future of corporate and enterprise education.
Today on Leap Forward, we welcome Jackie Barker, Global OEM Strategy Director at Keyloop and a dynamic leader in automotive technology and media. Jackie shares her journey from launching car magazines to shaping IT integration and enhancing the car buying experience. She champions diversity, offering unique insights on combining online and in-person customer journeys in the evolving auto world. Let's get started. So I'm just going to welcome you, first of all, to Leap Forward. It's really brilliant to have you on here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for agreeing to come along. Before we sort of get in to the weeds of that conversation, tell us just tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of, and what you do, and the role you play.
Okay, so my job is a bit of an odd one, really. So I work for Keyloop. My name's Jackie Barker. I work for Keyloop. I should have said that first, really. I joined Keyloop 3 years ago, about now. So it's coming up to my anniversary, which
Congrats.
is lovely. Thank you very much. And I originally joined to run the global OEM team, brand team, and their role is to manage the large-scale IT projects with our global manufacturers. So we have sort of big IT integration projects. Keyloop, as a business, runs dealer management. It started out running dealer management systems. So the systems that retailers will use to run their businesses, from bringing in stock to managing after sales, the garages, technicians,
the full gamut,
the whole thing.
Right.
And then over the last, we were a carve out from what was CDK, and then we were acquired by a company called Francisco Partners. So we were, private equity backed. And what they do is they will then fill in the gaps. So we almost have like a new category now, and we do everything full stack, which means, so if you're not a techie, full stack means front end, so digital stores, right the way through to back end, like connecting into the mainframes. So how the data then resides within the manufacturer's systems. So as it comes off a production line, there will be a product, it will have a code, it will tell you what that product is. So when you then bring that vehicle, you sell that vehicle, it's registered, that has a VIN code. That VIN code tells you the DNA of the vehicle. And when you service it, it kind of then connects all those things up. So we have thousands of integrations of data points that run from the manufacturer systems into the retail system. And we now have everything in between. That means you can digitize the entire journey from online inquiry through to sale and after sale, and then retention and back around again. So the kind of technical gaps have been filled with some acquisitions and a really robust partner ecosystem. So there are certain things that we will never do, like fintech isn't something we do, but we connect into our system so that you can sell the car, finance the car. That requires an integration into a bank or a lender, and we will kind of have all of those connected points. So it's very complex. Every day is a school day, and it really is. So when I joined, I was like, I've never worked for a DMS company. Why would you hire me? And then, and also I'd never done a global job before. So it sort of came about from meeting our now CRO, a lady called Harvey, who met me at an event and just thought, gosh, she seems to know a lot of people. So she kind of saw in me energy and passion for the industry. And I think for me, my purpose was make it easier to buy a car online, just make it easier for customers to do more in the right way. So make the experience better. And that is a combination of online and in person. So you're going to have to come to the dealership. You want it to be a good experience. And the digital element puts data, and it should connect up everything that you do as a consumer. So about a year ago, my job changed. So I'm now global OEM strategy, and I've moved into our strategy division, but I'm also like a de facto chief evangelist for Keyloop. So I do a lot of events, and we interview industry leaders at our panel events, or we kind of have a number of things that go around the world and just bring people together. So it's a combination of thought leadership, evangelism, and also champion women. So that's another part of my job, which is how can we make the industry more inclusive and diverse, because women buy cars, and it would be great if we kind of made that whole experience better. So, and also we can just see diverse teams are actually, they perform better from an investment point of view. They perform better. So, there's a lot going on.
It's almost like a dream role for this podcast, to be honest. And wow, it's almost, I'm amazed at kind of the breadth of it and how everything that you just described is kind of almost connected as well. And let's get more into that, because you've just mentioned many things that I'd love to kind of hear you talk more about. Before we do that though, you've also had a phenomenal kind of career up to this point as well. So let's just rewind for a second and sort of start from kind of day one, as it were. Give us a bit of a kind of plotted history. Okay. We love it when the path is never linear.
No, mine certainly hasn't. We have a thing called, we talk about squiggly careers, as in, you can go around all over the place. So I started out in car magazines, really. I started out in publishing, was my first job in automotive. And there was an advert. I remember seeing the classified advert and thinking they've described me. So I was looking for a job. I worked in agriculture and set-aside was happening. So I worked for the company at the end of my road. That was like most people do. And then I saw this job advertised, which described, I wanted to work for somebody that would train me, because I hadn't really been trained in sales. I knew that sales was my thing. Because people kept telling me you should work in sales. I was like, I think I'm really good. I love people. So I've always been a real people person. I'm a self-confessed extrovert, which means you get your energy with people. And I still do. And I've always been curious. So I saw this job advertised and it talked about sales and working in media and advertising. So I thought I'll apply for it. And it was for the launch of a magazine called Max Power, it went on to be a bit of a lads mag, but we were a newly formed team launching a magazine. So there was a team of rookies. And it was an incredible experience. So I walked into the EMAP building. I remember going for my interview and there were people in leathers. There were bikes outside. They had sexy cars. I just thought, I think I found my place. So it felt like I'd come home. I thought, yes, I felt like I belonged here. And then we had this amazing culture of work hard, play hard. We were literally bashing out the calls. And you were making 40 calls a day. So you were really well trained. You were trained to be really resilient. Mm-hmm. And all of that foundational stuff. I still have my notebook from when I was trained, because I then went on to be a trainer to train rookies across all of our businesses. So that foundational stuff was incredible. And I still refer to it. And I've coached people in sales, which is, a real professional having a really good background in how to sell something is a real gift. And I think everyone going into any job, because we now think at Keyloop we're all salespeople, everybody in your business should be able to advocate for what you do. So I went from Max Power to launch its sister magazine called Revs. I then left, having had a short secondment in training. I spent a year and a half doing the training job, training rookies and coaching them, to work on Evo magazine, the launch of a then magazine, which was born out of the fact that EMAP were closing Performance Car. So I was with, at the time, my partner. So John was the editor, went on to be the editor of Evo. And it was like they were all being made redundant. So it was like, right, shit, what do we do? And Harry Metcalf, Hoved interview, who was a reader and loved it. I was like, what am I going to do? So you can actually listen to the Evo launch podcast, which is hilarious. And I remember we knew there were lots of new magazines and you had to get past issue 3. So if you don't get past issue 3, you fail, because advertising revenue doesn't come in and you don't get your copy sales revenue in until issue 3. So you've got to have enough money to fund a new venture like that for at least 3 months. And we blagged so much stuff. We were like this team of wannabes. I was 26 at the time, which is nuts. And we just thought, well, we had the what have we got to lose attitude. Yeah.
Don't know any better, right?
Didn't know any better. And also we were like, Performance Car was all about really expensive stuff, but it was on really shit paper because they were trying to save cost. And we had no such overhead because we weren't funding 100 other magazines. Mm-hmm. So our overhead was tiny office, print production, distribution, that was it. And then and the industry got behind it. They really wanted it to succeed. So manufacturers found money for it. They were like, we want to see this thing. And we went all out on quality. We talked about carnography. So big, sexy shots, like go big, beautiful. Yeah. You want it to be on a magazine, on a coffee table. I still talk to people now that like, I've got every issue. They've saved every issue.
I've got this vision in my head of just iconic imagery.
Yeah. And that was what we went with. So we had Gus Gregory was one of the early photographers. John and Dickie were like, I made them go and buy nice clothes, not just the stuff they were given on car launches. So you've got to go and sell this thing to the PR firms, PR teams. And they did. So that was I think for me, early in my life, the ability to go for something with the belief that it's the right thing to do. And so I worked on it for like 6 to 8 months, and then working with John at the time was like too much. So I went back and worked in B2B. So I stayed in automotive and then went into B2B, worked for Fleet News for a while and learned all about B2B. Again, that was a whole new space for me, where retail mags, you don't have relationships with the industry, you have relationships with ad agencies. And with B2B, you get really into the depths of the industry because you are part of it. So that was where I think I really built the network that I now have, that I've maintained, of industry contacts that become your work family. And they don't leave. So automotive people, professional at what they do, we respect each other. There's a lot of people that move around from OEM to OEM or leasing company to leasing company, but there's a real skill and knowledge within the industry that's become really important. So I spent, probably all told, apart from my Evo hiatus, about 20 years working at EMAP and then Bauer. It became Bauer. And that was the most incredible experience. I still have friends that work there, and I now have gone back and I write a column for AM, which is mad that they've asked me to go back. I was the ad girl and now I'm doing editorial. So it's a real honour to go back and write for them. So I'm not naturally a writer, but I do give it to someone to tidy it up when I've finished. But it's so that, I think, going from media then into, I worked for Auto Trader for about 4 years, went to work for them. Again, I was headhunted because I had OEM contacts, and they had at the time no OEM relationships.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we could talk about audience behaviour and how digital audiences were behaving, and the manufacturers weren't talking to them in that space.
Yeah.
So the belief was people are coming into Auto Trader to value what they've got, not just buy something, not just buy used, which is what the industry believed it to be. So Nick King and I spent about 2 years just going around the boardrooms of manufacturers saying, we've got 11 million unique users coming to this site, and you can see exactly what they're doing within their journey. You can target them at the right point of that journey. And I think that sort of gave me wow, I love digital. And I'd learnt more about digital working with younger people, engineers, project managers, that again was so different. So there was a whole different tribe of specialists that knew what they were doing. So it was a real privilege to work with those people and take those people into the industry to educate manufacturers about how audiences behaved. I think from there, that kind of kept my lifelong journey from, great, I've done the audience thing. How do you build a website? I'd never done that before. So I worked for an e-commerce agency for 6 years in building websites. And then it was, so how do you then do the back end? Hence Keyloop. So I kind of then went from every job I did was, I don't know how to do that. I'm going to work with a company that I think does it really well and learn how to do that. So I think now we've come full circle into everything full stack is, and I'm still learning, and we have product specialists that will go into the depths of how do you create a really incredible after sales experience? How does that lead on to loyalty? How do you help retailers be more efficient by using the right tech in the right way? So what we're bringing now within Keyloop is like that whole full stack, and there's fusion at the heart of it, which should connect everything up. The whole vision is connect it all up and drive efficiency. Don't bring loads of tech and then see retailers do what they've always done. And I think the next big step we're going to see is how retailers start to really adopt tech in a way that does drive efficiency. So you're not then repeating everything you've done several times. So Auto Trader gives you so much information about audience. How can you then stock your forecourt according to your search data? How do you trigger retention according to your after sales experiences? When do you trigger those things to be optimized? So that's what digital and technology can do. So it's learning, what works and then doing more of it.
I love that. I mean, gosh, wow. I mean, what a journey and I love the way that you sort of phrased it in terms of it being this kind of lifelong learning journey. And I was imagining the kind of various segments that you were kind of filling in of your Trivial Pursuit wheel as you went through your kind of career. It's like, wow, God, yeah, she's got that kind of thing. And you've got this kind of now this incredible kind of perspective, I guess, on the world and this industry, particularly. And then you start to kind of bring it to life a little bit with sort of some of those kind of transformational kind of use cases, I suppose. And I guess I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about that. Sort of like, how do we kind of embrace, how do we apply, how do we use kind of the full stack, as you call it, to kind of really drive that kind of that efficiency, on one side, because now more than ever. And then I guess on the other side, how do you really enhance the customer experience? Because the two are kind of inherently linked, right?
Yeah. So I think that using the full stack is, we try and do it. I think what I've seen, to be honest, Justin, we've had everything from OEMs wanting to sell direct to consumer. And I think that's come out of a good place, which is I want to drive a better experience. And what we've seen is that ambition really falter, because they then try and build everything. So they'll go and go, right, we have to build the software. Or I think rather than trying to build everything in one go, the way to do it is look at where customers get stuck and try and improve that step, and then learn from that step, and then do the next thing. So you talk about doing one thing at a time. So we would look at, if you were building a website, Summit were a great example. So I went to work for a company called Summit, which they were retail specialists. And they then built the very early iterations of Reserve Online for Peugeot, which is still the only OEM that kind of, they did it first, they do it really well. And they trialed it with their internal sales tool. So how do you sell friends and family? It's a really great way to beta test a concept. You're not pushing it out to your consumers at large. You're saying, let's trial it with a smaller group. And that's what beta testing does. And that's what really good digital software companies do. So Amazon don't completely rewrite their entire site. They'll just test, does the button get more clicks if it's green, if it's blue, if it's on the left, or if it's on the right. If you beta test something and you learn, and then you release it to the whole, to the rest of your audience. So I think if you understand that your purpose is to drive a better experience, how can you deliver a better experience? And it's not to rewrite a whole load of software and expect retailers to log into a whole nother system, which the consumers then have a really disjointed experience, because online to in-store should give you the ability to see what I've done and then allow me to continue. So most manufacturers don't buy from themselves. They get given cars. So my advice would be, try and buy from yourself. How easy is it for you? Or get your family to try and buy. Just try this and tell me where you think it's good and where it isn't. And then what you see is consumers, because we did this, we used to bring people in, had a test lab at Auto Trader, which was brilliant. You'd sit in another room and you'd watch people trying to expand something on a screen. You go, oh, it doesn't expand. They go, they're expecting that thing to be clickable. We need to make it clickable. And it's not, because we just have this expectation of every other site that it should work in Automotive or in every other site. And when it doesn't, you get frustrated, people check out, they go away. So I think if you just do one thing really well and then do the next thing really well, then you start to build a better experience and you start to test and learn. And that's what you see really successful sites doing, because they will try something and then release it. So they'll go, oh, we'll do a monthly price rather than a cash price, because people budget monthly. Oh, everyone actually looked at the monthly price. Let's make sure everyone can show a monthly price. Or one thing I find really challenging is the inability to find EV information. So we're trying to push consumers into an EV world, but finding information to compare EV cost of ownership versus petrol cost of ownership is not easy. And it could be simplified because the data is there. It's how you surface that information in a way that's consumer friendly.
And that's really drawing on that in a sense is content, isn't it? To a consumer, that's content. It's just make my life easy. I want to buy an EV, but I don't know how to compare. So we need to kind of get that data. You've got the insight. Let's build a comparison tool that enables you to be able to make, an informed decision about, what's right for you.
We talked about like TikTok earlier on. So you think about how kids consume social media, confirmation bias. So we did I love working with clever people. I'm like, suck it. I absorb it all.
Sponge.
So I just love it, because you go, they're genius. And you go, it makes so much sense. And when you see somebody present it in that way. So we worked with a company who talked about the key moments. So life is a series of moments. Google built their whole thing on Google Moments. I want to find, I want to try, I want to buy. Then the language models have taken it over even further. But if you think about how confirmation bias is a really big core human moment. So I will keep doing things because it makes sense to me. If you think about confirmation bias and how you engineer your content to make it easier, if I start to dwell on something, make it easier for me to find more information about that thing.
Mhm.
And then you can start to see what I do next. So all of that gives you data and information that you can then build and architect your site, and you can use language models, and you can start to use AI to surface stuff. So if a consumer is looking for something, example of terrible experience is customer rings up about a car they've seen on Auto Trader, let's say, person answers the phone, go, oh, sorry, we sold that car. You know, I mean, customer goes, oh, shucks. Whereas AI could say, hey, great, yeah, we've got, let me find that for you. What is it you liked about that? Oh, I really like this, this, and this. Well, hey, we've got 3 other cars that actually fit that bill. Would you like to book a test drive? That one's sold, but here are 3 others. Oh, great, perfect. You've now given me an alternative. You've kept me in longer. And you can start to track what I engage with to then automate what you serve me next. So it's there's things you can do that technology does the heavy lifting that the human experience didn't really necessarily deliver. So I think there's stuff that you can start to lean on that's already there.
So it's really interesting. You talked about EV as a sort of example of, I suppose, in a sense, sort of like a challenge that the kind of industry is facing, the world is facing. Let's talk about, I suppose, in a sense, sort of like 2 sides to this. One is what challenges do you face, do your customers face, do consumers face when it comes to this industry? You know, and I suppose in a sense, you strike me as the sort of person that gets excited about solving those challenges. So like, what are you most kind of excited about, you know, when it comes to, you know, what's, you know, in a way, what's next, I suppose?
Yeah. So I suppose there are 2 questions there. It's like, what do I get excited about in terms of how do we solve things? Or what I've seen, the industry has kind of done so many things really well. And what we've seen is the willingness is there to create the right thing. And then the next bit is connecting it up. That's going to be the magic sauce, right? I think, is how you connect it all up. So, and what I mean by that is customer often, nobody just walks in, let's be honest. There is so much data from various sources about what consumers do online before they walk in.
Yep.
And then they are hugely informed when they walk in. So
context, right?
Exactly. How we help the retailer create a better experience is stop trying to sell to people the way that you've always sold to them. And, you know, my partner went to try and buy a car recently, went to test drive something recently. And 2 hours later, I rang and said, hey, how'd you get on? He was still in there. I was like, oh, God, they've taken your keys, haven't they? And they were trying to strong arm him into some ridiculous finance deal. I was like, just get out. You're not allowed to buy a car until I'm with you. So total role reversal that people only ever speak to husbands, which I thought was quite funny. They said, I can't come in without my girlfriend. She won't let me buy a car unless she's there. So, but that's if you think that consumers are not stupid, they're well informed, they have the internet in their pocket at all times. We all have a phone and we all have 3, 4, 5G, whatever, but you can access competitive pricing. So transparent pricing wins if you kind of are really open. We price to the market. Some great things you can price to the market. Auto Trader have price to the market tools, as do CarWow, as do, Motor Trader. I'm sure they all have the same ability to validate your pricing based on your stock profile. It's all there. But connecting it up. So when I walk in, if you know that I've done all these different things, ask a question. Do you know what you want? There was Nick King used to talk about, do you know what you want? Do you need some help? That's the Apple question. Do you know what you want? Do you need some help? Yes, I know what I want. I've got this. Great. Let's get you in. Have you booked a test drive? No. Do you want one? Here are the keys. Trust me, I will bring the car back. Let me go and do it for myself. I think most people actually don't need to have the car sold to them. You just need to make it easy for them to do the thing of getting it. So of getting in it, financing it, trading the thing in, which is a whole other story. The whole trade-in piece was totally missed in the whole agency model. I think it was certain models work if you're just buying it online. Mm-hmm. Most people don't just buy a car online. You can't just buy the thing. You've got so many other elements to the process you've got to do. So it's, but yeah, I think coming back to the don't build software, use what's there, and then just try and think about how the customer is trying to do the things they need to do. Yeah. Walk the path of a customer and try to figure out where they get stuck. So I don't know if that's answered your question,
No,
but
it's
I think connecting it all up is going to be the magic sauce.
I think that's, I mean, it's a brilliant, more than answered it. I think that sort of, that whole concept of kind of connectedness to create, kind of, a coherent, consistent, and where are we on that journey, would you say? You talk about the stack and so forth. And you mentioned AI, of course, right? So we have to kind of bring AI into this conversation in some way, but where are we, do you think, on that curve?
So I think the industry is, we talk about digital transformation, and I think digital transformation should be just transformation, not just digital, because digital is just the means by which you get there, and it's the means by which you can gather data and learn and behave and respond accordingly. AI can do a lot of that heavy lifting because it allows you to then do more in less time. So the narrative that we are exploring now, quite realistically, is you shouldn't need to. We're auditing and helping OEM, the kind of big dealer groups, look at what is it you're actually doing with your time, and why have you got so many workaround systems, and why are you logging into and out of so many systems. So we talk now about, we've spent like the last 18 months taking all of the data from all of our systems into a platform layer, and we've now just partnered officially with AWS. So we don't do data hosting. AWS do it really well. Work with the best that do it, and then use their skill. So when you have data in one place, that means you can then architect a system that is event-based. So when we talk about an event-based architecture, it means that this system can talk to that system, and this system will say, oh, Jackie's name has changed or her address has changed, and this system goes, great, I'm going to update it over here because I can see that something has happened over here, so I will update it over here. So there is going to be you will have to have multiple systems because you have to store data in various places. And if you wanted to use a central CRM, you have to have the data from the core system of record, which might be your DMS, going into that CRM and then back again. So where we have the partner ecosystem, it means that you have a series of APIs, which means that you can then automate the data that flows between the systems. So the APIs are the pipes or that kind of call upon the processes to happen. Historically, we've had what were point-to-point solutions. So for the manufacturer systems to work in the retailers, they have engineered loads of different system integrations. That means we as a supplier have to certify using those integrations to allow a retailer to use our system. So it's really complicated, and there are thousands of them. They're now being replaced with APIs. But to do that, you have to have data in a central platform, and it has to be cloud hosted. You have to have it in a way where it's secure, accessible when it needs to be, 24/7, always online. So you've got to be able to have the data in a place where you can access it and update it as you need to. So AI can only work if you have your foundational pieces in place first. So for us to then engineer the next piece, so first job for us was architect the platform, then build active data core, which goes around it. That allows you to build an event-based architecture, which allows you to work with other big tech, which we need to do. And then you can start to work on, we've kind of got them in pillars. So we have, the different parts of our business will focus on the ownership domains. We have domains. One is around ownership, which is the after-sales space. Now, after-sales may historically have been quite unsexy, but actually you build your loyalty in a brand when you live with it. If you buy a Hotpoint washing machine and it always breaks, you won't buy another Hotpoint. You'll buy, a Miele or a Zanussi or whatever. So your experience of that brand is built when you live with it. And I think that's one of the areas where the industry has underplayed the value of after sales and how good that experience should be. I'm on my 4th of the same brand now because I love it. I know where everything is. I went down to a smaller vehicle. I've gone back up to a bigger vehicle because I love it. So it fits my life. So how you access and simplify after sales. And when you talk about tech and data coming out of the vehicle, that should automate how I can warm my car up from my phone. I can start my engine I can charge it. I have a hybrid, but I can check the charging thing from my phone. I can automate how it integrates with my at-home charger. So all of these things mean that I don't have to physically go and fill it up all the time. I challenge myself with only filling it up once a month. So I charge all my local mileage on the battery. So when you think about how we live with tech, after sales drives loyalty, and connecting it up could be vehicle data notifies user, notifies dealer, notifies OEM of fault, which means you can reduce accidents and reduce fatalities because you can replace parts sooner. You can also then know what my mileage is, what the condition of the vehicle is, what the health of the battery is. How do I then trigger the next purchase? So you talk about retention and loyalty. All of these things should be then connected into the next thing. So I buy it. There's been so much investment in buying it online and less investment in the after-sales experience, which is one area that we've really focused on, is how do you make the after-sales experience really slick? So the retailer, so now consumer can book their service online, vehicle arrives, technician knows vehicle is coming, parts are already ordered. You have to be efficient with just-in-time ordering. You don't want to keep loads of parts in stock you're not going to use. Consumer can see when car is ready because app can be updated. All of these tech pieces of the puzzle now connect so that consumer gets great experience. So ultimately, you're driving the best experience for your consumer by doing all of the technical pieces of the puzzle to join it all together. So when we buy a Domino's pizza, I can see when it's in the oven, I get all excited in the car park. Same with my car. By giving the ability to connect into an application, I don't need to ring the garage and see when my car is ready. I can see it'll be ready in 2 hours. I can get on with my life. The person doesn't have to be on the phone calling me or taking my call. They can get on with running the service department. So all of these things mean that we're more efficient and more transparent, and you drive a better experience. So I think that's kind of where tech is really taking the industry.
Yeah, I love it. It's a really great illustration of that point. And the AI kind of unlock, I guess, I'd really be interested in kind of hearing, once you've created that kind of event sort of driven kind of platform, I suppose, in a sense, where does AI come in when it comes to kind of agentic stuff? Like, how can we have all of these kind of micro agents, both from a customer and from a manufacturer and dealer perspective, kind of helping us drive efficiency and improve the customer experience?
Yeah, we sort of had this, we had a session on Friday. So I had a conversation, we're launching a podcast to mainly help educate retailers and the industry know what's coming and how to exactly learn how to do that kind of stuff. But Tom Kilroy, who's our CEO, was saying, there's going to come a point when your bot talks to my bot. And you go, oh my God, that's scary. So not only do you can ask your phone to book a service and the bot will talk to the bot at the other end. So you now can find yourself talking to a bot that is looking for your diary slot.
Have you seen that meme? Sorry to interrupt you. There's the crazy meme where the bots are talking to each other and then they say, oh, you're a bot. Yes, I'm a bot. And they say, should we just talk in computer language? And they just turn into, do you remember the modems?
Yeah.
Like they literally turn into like computer speak. So they forget, they go, oh, you're a bot. Okay, cool. Let's just talk our language. And there's literally a clip. It's fantastic. Sorry, I've interrupted
No, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah,
I need to do that. But you just think, that's crazy, isn't it, that agentic AI is literally going to be taking over. I met my partner online, which is quite funny, but I'm like, I wouldn't want to talk to a bot. We actually met humans and we met really quickly. And we're like, yeah, you're a human. You're a good human. This is good. So
that was another one. The founder of Bumble was talking about the fact that sort of the future of dating for her is that my digital twin would meet your digital twin, kind of have a first sort of bot-based date. And then only then we would, I'm like, I don't think that's
I'm not really sure.
Not sure about that one.
That's not going to work, but it is quite funny. So I think there's... Before we get to, and I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about agentic AI because that would be false of me to represent myself in that way.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of AI. I have to say I use it now with really detailed prompts. So I work as a mind mapper. That's how my brain works. I'm a real, I have ideas and with the menopause, I kind of change. We joke, one menopausal woman speaks to another menopause, and we wonder what the hell we started talking about because we just go off topic so quickly. But my brain works in that way. So if I'm thinking, God, wouldn't it be great if? And then you go, doot, 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 doot. So you can mind map stuff. And then if you want to write it into a detailed proposal, I will ask AI to help me to structure something into a detailed proposal based on the ideas that I have. And I use that. Actually, for the ERG, I was like, I want it to do all of these different things. I'm really passionate about how we can help women in all these areas. And I asked AI to generate a proposal that I could take to the board. And so I then created from that a presentation. I took it to Tom and we got funding to do it. So, but it all came out of my mind mappy ideas that then went into a proposal. I then rewrote, I tidied it up. You have to make sure it doesn't have too many Z's in it because we speak in British dictionary, not the American. So you have to go through and write it in your own words. But it sort of really helps me to structure it because that's how my brain works. I'm like, work to your strengths and then let AI do the heavy lifting if you need it to. So my advice would be start playing with AI and see what it can do for you. And then as agentic AI, Harvey did actually mention in our discussion on Friday, some good sources. So I'll try and find the sources that she referred to where she gets like tech newsletters and how you can start to learn through the right podcasts. How do you equip yourself with the right knowledge so you understand what good looks like and what you should be learning and how you need to understand it? Because it's just, there's so much to know and it changes so quickly.
That's a great segue into the other kind of big topic that we sort of talked about at the very beginning of this conversation, training and learning. I mean, as you've described all the way through this, that you're constantly learning and the world is changing so fast. But, going back even to your days of training, as you and learning how to become a great salesperson, and always be selling. We all need to be salespeople, right? Tell us a little bit about sort of, I suppose, sort of, your kind of philosophy when it comes to kind of, I suppose, sort of training and learning. And if you want to kind of give that bring that to life as well around the particular skills you see that are kind of almost must-haves and how those have evolved and changed as you've gone through your career.
Okay. So I think when I mentioned I have my training book in front of me, I literally do.
Yeah.
It's the induction course. So we used to train this thing, which is the principles of sales. And in the principles of selling, there are some key things that I will always go back to. And the 4 things you need to know or have, and I know these because I used to have them in front of me. When I first, as a rookie, I used to have like little prompts in front of me that were, how do you close a sale, different closing techniques, and you use them now. So with the alternative close, you say, do you want a tea or a coffee? And you might want nothing, but you go, oh, I'll have tea. So we would use it immediately. But the 4 things you need to know or have, you'll use it all the time, works well with kids. It really does. So 4 things you need to know or have: product knowledge, belief in your product, belief in yourself, and persuasive power. And we used to talk about persuasive power as being, is it born or learnt? And what is persuasive power? So persuasive power is the ability to ask for something that you want or to get someone to do what you want them to do. And that's quite a skill because people don't think they have it. And when you kind of go back into the, is it born or learnt, and you look at a newborn baby, how does a newborn baby get what they want?
They cry.
Well, they cry. And then how easy is it to leave a newborn baby? Pretty impossible, right? It's really hard. So as if you think that we're born with it, and then what happens over time is the toddler starts to annoy you and they want to do this and they want the sweets and they want the da-da-da and kind of stay up late, and you go, no. So kids are then affected with this thing called no conditioning. So you start to lose the ability to ask for what you want because you think you're not going to get what you want. My kids, I think kids actually learn pretty crazy ways to get what they want. But, at large, when you come through school, your confidence gets eroded. So you have to relearn to ask for things that you want, or to say, hey, I think we'd be great at this. Do you want to do this? So the way that we would, thinking about how we sell, I absolutely believe that the technology we have makes it easier for you to run your business and it will drive efficiency if you adopt it and if you don't just repeat the process that you've always done. I would never sell anything or represent something I didn't really believe in. Mm-hmm. And I have absolute belief in myself, which is I think I'm curious enough to try and learn your business to be able to help you. So my purpose is I want to help you use the right things that are going to work for you at the right time, not have everything we've got, because I don't think that works. I think if you look at what works in your business and where are you stuck, where can you make marginal gains? So if you just think about your business as a series of marginal gains, so customers get stuck at this point, how can we unstick them? That's a marginal gain. So they will buy more, or they will convert more, or they will be more advocates. They will kind of enjoy that, and then they'll talk about you in a positive way. Marginal gain. Everything that you do should be helping customers, not strong-arming them into a finance deal that's a pile of shit. Stop doing that. And please talk to women when they walk in to buy a car. Marginal gain. If you delight every female that walks into your showroom, women talk. Hire more women in your showroom. Marginal gain, massive gain actually. If you can get women into retail that talk to women, in terms of like Ipsos now, slight segue, the most likely demographic that will buy your product are people that look like me, because we are financially independent, we probably live alone, we are equipped and educated, and we can, we know what we're doing, and we like shopping. We kind of know how to buy good things. So and we still hear people going, oh my God, I just don't want to go back into the dealership. And it really upsets me because I'm really passionate about the automotive industry and I want people to have a great experience. I personally have a great experience. I go into my, Scandinavian kind of lounge type experience, use the Wi-Fi, have a coffee while my car's being serviced. Brilliant. Love it. Feel safe, feel seen. Really, great experience. But I think those are coming back to the 4 things you need to know or have. So, product knowledge, belief in product, belief in self-persuasive power. Those kind of 4 things have always stood me in good stead. So learn about your product and learn not just the nuts and bolts of its tech. What does that tech do for your customers that makes their lives easier or makes it easier for customers to buy? And I think from a learning perspective, having a core purpose, which is I'm really passionate about making automotive the best it could possibly be, and how can I learn like the next thing? So I don't really know what comes next, because I think I've kind of reached the point where I'm really happy. For me, it's kind of helping other people learn and kind of develop skills and creating and being part of that industry is what I'm really passionate about. So it's but I love the idea of persuasive power. We all have it. You just got to relearn it to be able to ask for what you want. And that might be, I'm curious about your business. Can I come and talk to you? I think we can do better. What can we learn? Go talk to people. If you do anything, go talk to people.
It's really interesting. I wanted to ask you about sort of applying that to the point you were talking about, and you sort of mentioned it probably more on the kind of consumer side of things, but how do you build an environment and a culture that I suppose in a sense kind of celebrates a lot of the philosophies that you've kind of described, with a particular kind of emphasis, I suppose, on equality?
So when I was interviewed for this job, so I told you I met Harvey at an event, and then she set up, I think I had 5 C-suite interviews in a week, and I was like, it was mad. But actually I met a group of people that I thought, I really like these people. Yeah. I want to go work with these people. And Tom, our CEO, he said, "Oh, I hear you're a jazz singer." And I went, yeah. I think I'd put on my LinkedIn profile that I sing jazz, and I sing in a jazz quartet, which I also really love. And I've sung my whole life. I've sort of grew up in bands and my house deposit came from gig money because I used to gig at the weekends. And then I had kids, and so I didn't do it for a while. And then I got back into singing jazz purely because I called the wrong person on the wrong day, and they were looking, my network, it happened. The universe meant that happened. So anyway, I said to Tom, yeah, I do. And actually, I get my joy from doing that. And he said, well, that's great. I think you should, And I also, just to that point, I always had this belief that I was a bit too bouncy, because I'm very bouncy, lots of energy, which is great for launching products and launching teams and launching things. But I had this belief I was too bouncy for the boardroom, and I thought, I'm in the wrong boardroom. I need to be somewhere where I find my tribe. And Tom said, you have to bring your whole self to work. And I think having the permission to be my warts and all bouncy, happy self has really helped. And I model that really openly. I don't try and be some chair of a thing. Or I'm not that person. I'm never going to be that person. And I admire people that can be that person. I'm not that person. So I think to model a culture, you have to, and I've said to Tom sometimes, I'm unapologetically myself. I can't be anybody else. So I have ideas and I'm passionate about them. So I say things. Sometimes, you've got to but you speak as you find. But I also make sure I intentionally shine the light on other people. So you tell other people when they're really good at something. I reach out to people and say, God, I've heard some great things about you. You're really crushing it in the minute. Fantastic. And I mentor people. So I think the culture comes from the top. We have a senior leadership team that are very human, and we're not all perfect. They don't get it right all the time. And I think that really helps, having a culture where you've got your senior team modeling. We're going to just keep getting it right. We kind of iterate in an agile way. We get it right some of the time. We might have to, remuster our troops at times to speed things up where we've got some gaps or a backlog. The other thing as well, we're trying to, we're working for so many different projects globally. There's only so much engineering resource. So you're just trying to make sure that you're keeping a lot of people happy and also delivering new tech and innovation. So I think the culture is very much, we are all trying to go faster because the industry seems to be like it's on this cusp of major transformation. And we have to support that. But what we also have to do is support the transformation of the humans that are using our tech, so they use it in the right way and in the most efficient way. So I think the culture comes from, you've got to shine the light on others. And I'm really happy to be the cheerleader for other people, and also to champion how we get diversity and how we get more women wanting to come and work here. So just because I make a noise, actually we're hiring more women, because I talk about the culture we have and people want to come and work for us, which is great. So I think if we could do that and get more people to advocate for the stuff that we're doing, people will want to come and work for a company that celebrates. And a really good point on I won't name the names, but a really good friend of mine who was working for a senior, not in automotive, but in a financial services partnership, pulled out of a process with one of the companies that had moved away from DEI. And I just thought it's really toxic to move away from that. You are going to lose good candidates. So you have to support everyone that works for you, not just try and not support DEI because you think it's kind of some, airy-fairy thing. It's not. You're going to represent your customers, and actually you need to get the best talent regardless of gender. But you don't want people to not come work for you because they feel they won't be represented.
It's really interesting. I could talk forever, I think, and this has been great. I've got one. I'm going to have to kind of end it.
Yeah.
Shame.
We should have a series.
I'm seriously going to get you back if that's all right. Yes. Going back to the day when you were going through that classified ad.
Yes.
What one piece of advice would you give your past self?
Oh God. Do you know? I think the one thing I tell myself right now is, like, you're exactly where you need to be right now. Don't rush. So I think we're all ambitious and we want to get the promotion, or you want to get the thing. And I look back where I was a year ago, and I found a great mentor as an evangelist, a lady called Laura Drabick. She does this kind of job for Guidewire. And she was like, year 1, do this, year 2, then do that. But like, take your time. And because you want to rush and do something really big, really quickly. And it's taken a real while to kind of build up momentum, but just stop and think, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. So go for the things that kind of scare you a little bit. But also, I've walked away from jobs where I didn't feel I fitted. And I've been really honest and said, I don't need to be in your tribe. If this isn't my tribe, it's fine. I don't need to fit in. I'm happy to be too bouncy for your boardroom if that's what it is. But, take yourself where you feel valued. And don't feel, because there are times, I think, when all of us find ourselves in situations when we don't feel valued. And it's really damaging. So don't be afraid to walk away from something that doesn't feel like you, where you feel valued. So that would be it. And also, don't rush.
Thank you for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.